All right, what's going on, guys? It's Simple Sports back again with another video. 3 in a row, if you can believe that. I surely can't. Third video in a row, third day in a row. We're on a nice start this week. Let's see if we can keep it up. But with that being said, I want to get right into this one. I'm going to try to not ramble as much in my videos. I want to try to keep them somewhere around 10 to 15 minutes. Right now, they're kind of all over the place. So I want to keep it around 10 to 15 minutes. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Today, what I'm going to talk about are my going into the NFL season, obviously getting ready to start in a couple of weeks here. College football starts tomorrow with my Ohio State Buckeyes going up against Indiana, which shouldn't be a contest at all, but you know how these early season games go. But today, I'm going to talk about fantasy football. And I want to talk about, I love fantasy football. I love daily fantasy. I love, I guess the standard, all that good stuff. I want to give you my potential, I wasn't sure, I didn't want to call this bust and sleepers, although some of them are busts and some of them are sleepers. But a lot of them aren't necessarily a bust or a sleeper. It's more like someone who, this is the way I like to phrase it. If it's someone that if you were on the fence, yes or no, I'm telling you either yes or no. And that's, if you need some outside opinion, here you go. So what I did was I tried to pick two from each category, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, a flex. I try to pick a defense, but I think for defense, it's a little too... It's hard to say someone's a sleeper on defense. You either get one of the best defenses or you get someone who isn't going to give up 40 points a game. That's pretty much how fantasy works. Other than that, you're kind of hit or miss. So I kind of skipped the defense. So with that being said, let's get right into it. My first position, quarterback. I have two and really three. And one of them, and you'll see in a second, it's just kind of a toss-up. So I think it's one or the other, and then the other guy is a sleeper. So first, Marcus Mariota. If he is not considered a starter and you can get him, get him. They have surrounded him with an offense now. A defense that's okay, average, could be better. But their offense is, on paper, significantly better. You have one of the best tight ends in the game. You have Eric Decker, who is a solid receiver, and you have Rashard Matthews, who is a solid receiver. Neither one are like superstars, but I don't want superstars either. I just want people who can catch the ball, get to the sticks, get in the end zone. I don't want the superstar wide receiver on my team. I like the workhorses, and I don't like the divas. Not for my team. Fun to watch. Just don't want them on my team. Marcus Mariota has a better offense around him. He's first up on the list. Second, this one might shock a few people. It's a toss-up for me between Carson Wentz and Jay Cutler, believe it or not. Now, again, this is fantasy football. This isn't what, I guess this isn't quote-unquote real football. It's fantasy football. So we're looking at numbers here. Who can produce the best numbers, right? So we're not talking about wins and losses here. Those don't particularly matter. Jay Cutler has a really good offense around him as well. Don't forget, this team went to the playoffs last year. And say what you want about Jay Cutler's personality. I spent my own time ripping him. But from a strictly football standpoint, the guy can throw the ball. Okay? He can move the ball on offense. He's smart enough to make adjustments throughout the game. He has one of, if not the best arm in football. And he has Jarvis Landry to throw to. He's got a Jai in the backfield, and Kenny Stills, is he still there? I think he's still there. He has a solid team around him, especially offensively. So don't be surprised if for fantasy he puts up nice numbers. Carson Wentz, same sort of deal. I think people have underestimated Carson Wentz. He got off to a nice start last year, and then it kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. I think that was more to do with the jump from his level of college to the pros, as much as it is his talent. I think talent-wise, he's there, okay? You don't make some of the throws that he made last year without talent. I think it's a matter of adjusting, maturing in the game. So I think Carson Wentz will also put up decent numbers this year. Marcus Mariota, for those of you who don't realize, first of all, they went 3-13 his first year. They then went 9-7 last year, and he threw almost 30 touchdowns. So, you know, I think with better weapons and now confidence after you're coming off a winning season, although you didn't make the playoffs, you're coming off a winning season and a big improvement on the year before. Confidence going in this year, the division's kind of weak. There's your answer, Marcus Mariota. If he's on the board late, or if you need, I don't know why he wouldn't be a start. Now, I get it with other quarterbacks in the league, sure. If you're only 10 deep, you could possibly name 10 fantasy quarterbacks you'd rather have than Marcus Mariota. I'm sure you could. I'm not going to try right now, but I'm sure you could. But that doesn't mean he's not a very good option. So if you can pair him with like a Delaney Walker and then really load up on receivers elsewhere, that might be a way to go. Next, running back. Now from here on out is going to get a little shocking, okay? First on my list, Isaiah Crowell, yes, of the Cleveland Browns. And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, he's not the only Browns player on my list. But Isaiah Crowell, you have to think about the circumstances, what fantasy football is, and the players you're talking about in their circumstances. So look at the circumstances. They don't have a legitimate quarterback, at least not yet. They think Kaiser is that guy. He's going to be the starter. What do we know about rookie quarterbacks? What do they tell rookie quarterback? Well, what do they tell any quarterback, but especially a rookie? Check down, check down, check down. Your check down is your best friend. Isaiah Crowell is a running back. Who's usually the check down? Running back. And if Kaiser is even decent, even if he's average, it's going to open up the run game for Isaiah Crowell. And so that's going to allow you, if you can't throw the ball, that was a problem with the Titans for a long time. They had a good defense for a couple of years. They had like a top, I don't want to say top 5, but maybe like top 8 defense for sure. And even a good running back, Chris Johnson, and then obviously now DeMarco Murray, but they couldn't throw the ball. And so when you can't throw the ball, you can't run the ball, because if I can load up the box and play you man-to-man, because you're not going to be able to throw the ball. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. Isaiah Crowell, if you need a running back really, really late, Isaiah Crowell. He's going to be, and again, these people aren't, I'm not talking about these are going to be like fantasy points leaders. Okay, these are filler roles, maybe a third position, like a third receiver or flex, something like that. Next up on the list, Todd Gurley. Had a bad year last year. This is one of those, I don't necessarily think it's a sleeper because Todd Gurley is a good player. I just think it's more of a, hey, if you're on the fence about Todd Gurley, take him, okay? Jared Goff looks like he can play in this league. We'll see once the actual season starts. They were terrible last year, but obviously he's a rookie, so that had a lot to do with it. We'll see this year if he makes some improvements. They're my surprise team this year. I picked them to go 8-8, possibly. And even they could potentially make the playoffs given their schedule and if things fall the right way. But that's a big leap. I don't know if I want to go that far just yet, but I do think they'll be a lot better. I think there'll be 6 to 8 wins this year. And Todd Gurley would be a large reason behind that, because they can throw the ball just a little bit, similar to the Browns situation, where as long as you have at least an average or decent quarterback and you can throw the ball and move it other than running it, that'll open up some running lanes for Gurley back there. And he's young, fresh legs, motivated off a bad year. I think he's a nice, solid pickup. All right, at wide receiver, I have 2. Cooper Kupp from the Rams. Again, a lot of this is dependent on Goff. But if Goff, again, if he's decent, Cooper Kupp is going to get a lot of catches because he's in that slot. And for a quarterback, especially one who's not trying to really push the ball down the field, that slot receiver is huge. That's why quarterbacks like Dak Prescott last year, Jason Witten had a nice year, Julian Edelman, Gronk, like these guys, they're closer to the quarterback. And so Brady's not throwing the ball down the field, 30, 40 yards, 2 or 3 times a game. He might get one, especially now with Brandon Cooks. You might get a couple this year. But by and large, he's throwing it maybe 15, 20 yards down the field at the most, but usually it's 8 to 10. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. He's going to be a slot receiver for essentially a rookie quarterback. He's going to be relied upon heavily, especially if Jared Goff proves to be worth anything. And the other guy is Rashard Matthews of the Tennessee Titans because, again, their offense has improved. He had a nice year last year, kind of came onto the scene. If he can just continue that pace even, he doesn't even have to improve necessarily as far as fantasy goes. He can just continue the pace he had from last year. He'll be a pretty solid wide receiver or a flex spot if you need one. Up next, I have tight end. And I have Julius Thomas, who went to Miami. And Julius Thomas got out of Jacksonville, thank God. I don't think he was a product of Peyton Manning. I think he's a legitimate tight end. But obviously, what is he going to get done in Jacksonville? What has anyone gotten done in Jacksonville? He's now with a quarterback who loves to throw to the tight end. He had Martellus Bennett for a while, who came onto the scene when he was with Cutler. What's the other guy's name? Miller? I don't remember his first name. I think it was Miller. That was the tight end there. Threw to him a lot as well. So who knows? He could revitalize his career in Miami. That's really all I have based on that. Tight end is a little bit more challenging to pick. But I think if any tight end can take a big step forward this year, based on last year, it could be Julius Thomas. Just he has a better quarterback. So that's all that pick really is. And then Dwayne Allen is mostly of health concern. If he's on the board like super late, and you can take him, you need a backup tight end, or maybe you need a third tight end, depending on how your league is set up. Dwayne Allen could be a solid pickup, mostly because obviously he's a reliable tight end. But if Gronk happens to go down again or misses some time, obviously the Patriots throw their tight end a lot. So case in point, Gronk, Martellus Bennett last year, Dwayne Allen potentially this year. And if they run two tight ends, which they did a lot, they've always done a lot, still you have the potential for him to rack up some catches. And he could do some nice things for you in fantasy. And then last, my flex spot. So obviously flex, wide receiver, wide receiver, tight end, or running back. Both of mine are wide receivers. And here are my two surprises. And one is really not so much a surprise as much as it might be a home pick, but still, I'm not doing this because I'm a Titans fan. I'm truly being objective here. Eric Decker, think about it. One of the best red zone wide receivers in football. Say what you want about anywhere else on the field, but as a red zone receiver, Eric Decker is a beast. And then you have, right now, the single best quarterback in the red zone. Yes, for those of you who do not know, Mariota is, if I'm not mistaken, like 35 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in the red zone. That just, you don't grow that on trees, okay? So you match those two together. One of the best wide receivers in the red zone, one of the best quarterbacks in the red zone, actually the best quarterback statistically in the red zone right now, Marcus Mariota. You got yourself a deadly combination, not to mention just everywhere else on the field, especially in the PPR league. But for this particular conversation, yes, two of the best red zone players on the same team who directly will need for fantasy directly benefit from each other. Absolutely. And finally, the one guy who I think is going to have a really, really, really nice, successful year as a flex player and just as a player in general. Corey Coleman from the Cleveland Browns had a terrible year last year, but he looked really good in the preseason. And with Kaiser being a serviceable quarterback, as I mentioned before, along with Crowell, especially if they're able to actually run the ball with Crowell, Corey Coleman is, especially with Pryor now gone, is going to have a breakout year. Mark my word. If things pan out, obviously, with Kaiser. Now, if Kaiser turns out to be an absolute pile of hot garbage, then, I can't do anything for you. But if he's serviceable, if he can do even close to what like Mariota and Winston did their first year. And Mariota didn't have outstanding numbers his first year. I think he had like 19 touchdowns and like 12 interceptions or something along those lines. So obviously not great. He threw for like 3,700 yards. But if the Browns can even do that, and trust me, for the Browns, I'm sure they would take that gladly. So if they can do something close to that, I think Corey Coleman will have a solid year. Because going back to that year with Mariota, Delaney Walker that year had, if not 100 catches, definitely close to 100 catches. And he was obviously the best offensive player that they had, minus the actual quarterback. So the Browns can replicate that this year. Corey Coleman and Isaiah Crowell could have nice years. Corey Coleman is my breakout player for fantasy all across the board. So very, very shocking, I know. 3 Titans and 2 Browns players. The 2 Titans, though, the 3 Titans are logical picks, in my opinion. If you really take a look at everything, they're logical picks. So those are my fantasy. That's my fantasy advice, I guess, for now. What I'm going to try to do once the season starts is every Thursday, because I do fantasy, daily fantasy, as well as my standard league. So what I'll try to do is every Thursday going forward, I'll try to come out with at least one daily fantasy lineup for the week. So it'll be an all-encompassing, not like, the 4 o'clock games or the late games. It'll be Thursday through Monday night, most likely, just because that'll be the most likely. I don't want to do it every single day. But I'll try to do something like that this year as well. So that's it. That's all I got for you today. 17 minutes, not bad. Still a little bit long, but I'm getting there. So if you like this, please share it. Like the video, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Obviously, I'm trying to grow the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter, especially if you want to see me talk on a more consistent basis throughout the day. _Simple Sports. Same thing for Instagram. Check out the Facebook page. / Making Sports Simple and all that good stuff. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.